The diagnosis, while unsettling, offered a sense of validation for Meghan. For weeks, even months, she had been living with an invisible burden, feeling unlike herself, sensing that something was wrong, and yet constantly second-guessing whether she was overreacting. The confirmation that her instincts were right was both a relief and a new challenge. This wasn't a temporary phase or a simple imbalance that could be fixed with rest or time. It was a serious, chronic condition that required ongoing management, and it had already begun to affect nearly every aspect of her daily life. In the medical community, postpartum autoimmune responses are not widely discussed, particularly outside of academic circles. These conditions can include a range of disorders, from postpartum thyroiditis to more complex systemic issues such as lupus flare-ups or even rare inflammatory diseases triggered by hormonal shifts and physical stress. Meghan's condition, though she chose not to name it publicly, seemed to fall into this category, marked by unpredictable symptoms, difficult diagnostics, and a significant impact on quality of life. For a woman in the public eye, this added a layer of complexity. Every outing, every event, every photograph became something to plan around her symptoms. On some days, she could barely summon the energy to leave bed, let alone face cameras and perform under scrutiny. What made it especially difficult was the silence that surrounded her. Meghan, though surrounded by privilege in many ways, found herself navigating a medical and emotional landscape that millions of women quietly endure. The difference was that her struggle was hidden beneath the expectations placed upon her, not just by the public, but by the idea of what motherhood is supposed to look like. There was little room for weakness, little space to be vulnerable, and even less understanding for a mother who didn't bounce back with effortless grace. Behind the polished images, Meghan was enduring bouts of dizziness, brain fog, and aching joints, all while nursing a newborn and trying to maintain a sense of normalcy for her growing family. She spoke later about the fear that crept in. Fear that she wouldn't be able to keep up with the demands of motherhood, fear that her body would fail her at a crucial moment, fear that she might miss milestones because she was simply too unwell to be present. The condition forced her to reassess not just her physical limits, but also her mental resilience. She became acutely aware of how deeply intertwined her physical symptoms were with her emotional state. On the days her symptoms were worse, anxiety and depression crept in more easily. She felt irritable, impatient, even hopeless at times. It wasn't just her body that needed healing, it was her spirit too. In navigating this uncharted terrain, Meghan found strength in advocating for herself. She realized that if she didn't speak up, her concerns might continue to be overlooked. She learned to press for second opinions, to document her symptoms in detail, and to listen to her body rather than brushing things aside. That assertiveness didn't come naturally. It was something she had to develop, shaped by a growing awareness that too many women, especially women of color, are often dismissed in medical settings. Her experience made her more sensitive to the broader systemic issues within maternal health care, and it became a catalyst for her later advocacy. Throughout this time, Meghan leaned heavily on the quiet support of her inner circle. Harry, always at her side, became her protector and partner in navigating a world that didn't always feel safe or kind. Her mother, Doria, provided not just hands-on help with Archie, but also emotional steadiness, having been a single mother herself and understanding the weight of carrying too much alone. Their presence helped ground Meghan, offering her small moments of peace amid the chaos. The diagnosis marked the beginning of a long journey, one that would include medical treatments, lifestyle changes, therapy, and a complete reimagining of what recovery looked like. There were no quick fixes. Every improvement came slowly, and setbacks were frequent. But over time, Meghan began to rebuild her strength, both physically and emotionally. She adopted holistic practices alongside medical treatment, leaning into nutrition, mindfulness, and gentle movement. Her healing process was deeply personal, rooted in patience and self-compassion, two things she admitted didn't come easily in the beginning. And while her journey was difficult, it also transformed her. Meghan emerged from that period not just as a mother or a public figure, but as someone with a deeper understanding of the human experience, of vulnerability, pain, perseverance, and hope. Her story remains one of the few high-profile examples of what it truly means to live through a rare postpartum health challenge, and by choosing to share it, she has created space for others to do the same. Meghan's decision to go public with her postpartum health challenge was a deeply personal one, filled with internal conflict and emotional weight. Despite having built a reputation for transparency and advocacy, this particular topic felt different. It wasn't just about correcting public narratives or advocating for others, it was about revealing one of the most vulnerable moments of her own life. The fear of exposing herself to the same harsh judgments and misinterpretations that had followed her for years loomed large. She worried that her experience would be trivialized, misunderstood, or dismissed altogether. Yet at the same time, she felt an undeniable pull to speak up, driven by a sense of responsibility to use her voice for a greater purpose. Behind closed doors, the process of managing her condition had been taxing in every possible way. Meghan was forced to drastically adjust her lifestyle, giving up foods she loved, changing her schedule around medical appointments, and enduring the physical side effects of medication that sometimes made her feel worse before they made her feel better. Each day presented a new set of challenges. There were moments when she felt strong and hopeful, and others when she broke down in tears, exhausted by the ongoing effort to keep everything together. And while Harry was by her side, throughout offering comfort and partnership, Meghan often felt emotionally isolated. It was hard to fully explain what she was going through, how her body felt like it was betraying her, and how her mind sometimes echoed with anxiety that wouldn't let up. What made it even more difficult was the expectation that she continue, smiling for cameras, appearing polished and composed during public engagements. The contrast between her public persona and her private reality was stark. On some occasions, she would return home from an appearance only to collapse into bed from sheer exhaustion, her body aching, her mind weary. And yet, she rarely allowed herself to show that vulnerability to the outside world. There was a part of her that still felt pressure to live up to the perfect mother image, graceful, tireless, and endlessly nurturing. But the more she reflected on her experience, the more she realized that this illusion served no one. Not herself, not her family, and certainly not the millions of women who were silently enduring similar struggles. The moment she began to see her story as a form of advocacy rather than confession, something shifted. She understood that vulnerability could be a tool, not a weakness. By naming her pain, she could give permission to others to name theirs. The decision to go public wasn't made overnight. Meghan consulted with health professionals, close friends, and of course, Harry. She wanted to be accurate in how she represented her condition, while also being mindful of her own emotional boundaries. When she finally shared her story, it was with the intention of creating awareness, of breaking the silence that so often surrounds postpartum complications. She spoke not just as a duchess or a public figure, but as a woman who had faced something frightening and unknown, and who had come out the other side with hard-won clarity. In the aftermath, Meghan received an outpouring of support. Letters, messages, and stories from women across the globe began pouring in. Many said her honesty gave them the courage to seek help, to ask questions, to no longer dismiss the strange symptoms they had been experiencing. Doctors also took note, recognizing how her platform had brought much-needed attention to an often overlooked aspect of maternal health. While Meghan never sought to be a spokesperson for postpartum illness, her story naturally became a beacon for others navigating similar paths. Through it all, Meghan found a renewed sense of purpose. She realized that healing wasn't just about medication or rest, it was about reclaiming her agency, her voice, and her truth. And by doing so publicly, she helped create a space where others could begin their own healing journeys too. Meghan's journey through postpartum illness highlighted the often invisible struggles that many new mothers endure, and it underscored just how critical it is for women to speak up and advocate for themselves in medical settings. She reflected on how challenging it was to push for answers when she herself felt unsure, exhausted, and emotionally raw. There were moments when she second-guessed herself, wondering if she was overreacting or being overly cautious. But somewhere inside, there was a persistent feeling that what she was experiencing wasn't just typical new mother fatigue. It was something more. That inner voice became her compass, and when doctors initially dismissed her concerns or offered vague explanations, she didn't stop pressing for clarity. Her persistence, she later said, likely changed the course of her recovery. She often emphasized that many women are conditioned to downplay their pain, especially in the context of motherhood. There's a societal expectation to be selfless, to endure, to stay quiet. Meghan pushed back against that narrative by urging women to listen to their bodies and not accept dismissal as a final answer. She became an advocate not only for herself, but for all women whose symptoms had been brushed off as hormonal, emotional, or exaggerated. As her health gradually improved, Meghan found deep gratitude for the support network around her. Harry's presence was constant and grounding. He didn't try to fix everything, but simply showed up, holding space for her emotions, helping with Archie when she couldn't get out of bed, and sitting by her side during difficult medical visits. Doria, her mother, brought a sense of calm and stability. Meghan recalled how just having her nearby provided emotional reassurance, a comforting reminder that she didn't have to go through this alone. And her close friends offered their love without expectations, creating a safe environment for her to be vulnerable without fear of judgment. With time, Meghan not only regained physical strength, but also emerged with a renewed mission, her personal. Experience had awakened a stronger sense of advocacy, particularly for mothers navigating the healthcare system without adequate support. She started connecting with nonprofits focused on maternal care and began using her voice to highlight disparities, especially among communities of color who are disproportionately affected by postpartum complications. She made it a point to attend conferences, speak at forums, and elevate the work of frontline health workers and mental health advocates who were often under-resourced and overlooked. She also became more vocal about the link between physical health challenges and mental health. Her illness had affected more than just her body. It triggered waves of anxiety and self-doubt that were hard to shake. She admitted that there were nights when she lay awake, heart pounding, mind racing, unable to calm the fears that something else might go wrong. But unlike past struggles, this time she had more tools: therapy, mindfulness practices, and a stronger sense of self-awareness. Her openness about depression and anxiety, especially as a public figure and mother, challenged the stigma and reminded people that healing is not linear and that strength often begins with honesty. Even now, with her health restored and life settled in California, Meghan carries the memory of that chapter as a driving force behind her advocacy. She often says that health, both physical and emotional, is fragile, and protecting it requires courage and community. By sharing her truth, she created space for others to share theirs. And in doing so, she helped spark a larger movement. One that demands better care, more empathy, and deeper understanding for new mothers everywhere. Her impact is visible in both large and small ways. Healthcare providers have begun re-examining protocols for postpartum checkups. Advocacy groups have reported a rise in inquiries from women seeking help after hearing her story. Meghan's voice, once constrained by the expectations of royalty, now rings clear and strong in support of a cause that touches millions. And perhaps most powerfully, she has shown that vulnerability can be transformative, that by embracing the hard parts of her story, she has helped others rewrite theirs.